And I think we're live. Hello, everyone. There's a bit of delay between StreamYard and YouTube, so I hope we're live. If we're not, I'll probably find out in a while. Welcome, everyone. So nice of you all to join us this afternoon. Well, it's afternoon for us. I'm not sure about the rest of you. I'm Ziemek. I'm the CMO at Onely. I also currently run the research and development team. And this is pretty much a job I inherited from Tomek in a way, who has been Onely's head of R&D for many years. Currently, Tomek is, well, what do you do at ZipTie, Tomek? Actually, are you like a head of product or what's your job there?
So I'm a ZipTie co-founder. So my job is to take care of, to make sure that it's going to the right direction. There are two other co-founders, which is Sebastian and Bartosz. And Sebastian is he really makes sure that we do our products well, and me, I'm just helping him to do the job right.
Right. Yeah, so when you say Bartosz, you mean Bartosz Guralewicz, who's also the founder
and
of
also
Onely.
there is, I would say, quite good team of other people here, with Maciek, our data scientist, with Bartosz, our programmer, and with Patrick, who is a programmer too.
Yeah, so yeah, this is really exciting for me. I see more people joining, so hello to everyone who's just joined. Yeah, it's a very exciting day for me because this is the first time that we're able to show ZipTie to a live audience. Some of you may have seen it because we had some early testers, some people who had access to ZipTie for, was it like 3 or 4 months now, Tomek? Maybe even more?
Yeah, so some of them even longer.
Oh, okay. But probably for most of you, and I think we're going to publish this webinar on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube later on, it's very likely that it will be the first opportunity for you to see ZipTie. So I'm super excited because I do believe this is a unique product that we really need in the SEO industry. ZipTie is, I don't think there is another product like it on the market. Tomek, could you say a couple of words about, well, actually, what would you call ZipTie? What is it?
Mm-hmm. So ZipTie is a tool that will help you diagnose indexing issues. We believe that what we get in Google Search Console is not enough. The data is not actionable here. And that's why we built a tool. So here you can check a list of URLs, do a crawl, whatever mode you want to use, and then you get some actionable insights to let you get rid of indexing issues. So when it comes to indexing intelligence platform, there is no tool like that.
And
There are some tools that will let you index some pages, like indexing services, but they don't look at the full picture, I would say. So they give you a fish, but not a fishing rod.
Okay. When you mentioned those services, those would be services that promise, or well, at least attempt to get more URLs on a given website indexed. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Like as a tool. And ZipTie, as far as I understand, it's not exactly your value proposition that you're gonna get more URLs indexed with ZipTie. It's just that ZipTie offers you the data that you need to, well, essentially improve your website and get more URLs indexed in a sort of an organic way.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be correct?
Think of SEO crawler, but for indexing. So SEO crawler will give you insights, what should you improve, and our tool will give you similar insights, but related to indexing.
Right. I love the way you put it now. I think that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I think we can dive into the tool. I just I would love to do a short disclaimer here. ZipTie is still in beta. It's production, but the main features are there, and that's why we are so excited that we can show you some reports. We've chosen a website. We are gonna take a look at some of their indexing issues. So again, you may see some odd things in the panel, but the key features are there. And I guess without any further ado, let me share my screen. Tomek was nice enough to grant me beta access to ZipTie with tons of credits that I can spend any way I want. So I've been enjoying myself. sorry to mess up your servers, Tomek, but I've been loving it. And yeah, like we've teased promoting this webinar, we're going to take a look at Westwingnow.ch. You might know this website. I think specifically if you're in Europe, I know Westwing is in many countries. For sure, they're in Poland. I've also known them from the time that I lived in Austria. They are, a very large e-commerce store selling furniture. And this is their Swiss domain. We'll get to take a look at some specific URLs later, but just a couple of words about the panel itself. This is the main dashboard. As you can see, you have basically a credit system. As a user, you get a certain amount of credits that you can spend analyzing your website. And Tomek, correct me if I'm wrong, the way you spend credits is on a URL basis, right? So the more URLs you want to analyze, the more credits are going to be spent.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And so I've run some audits. I guess to take a look at the details and to go into projects. So I have this Westwingnow project here, and I can dig in. I've already had some fun. One thing that's worth mentioning here is we can set up different types of audits. So just instinctively, I guess, when I first got to use the tool, I went with a crawl. So the way that worked is I had to provide the homepage URL, which was westwingnow.ch, and ZipTie would crawl a given amount of URLs, just starting from homepage. And then you get the index coverage metric for that sample of URLs that were, in this case, crawled. The other two modes that ZipTie works in are a sitemap check, and you can also use a URL list, right, Tomek?
Right, so you can paste a list of URLs that you want to check.
Yeah, and with the sitemap, you just provide the URL of the sitemap, and ZipTie goes through all URLs. Is it all URLs in just that sitemap?
Depending on how many URLs you want to check. So let's say you've got 10,000 of credits, and then you put that 10,000, but there are a million of websites, then we will check the random sample of 10,000 of URLs. But if you have more credits and you specify, let's say, all the URLs in the sitemap, then we will check all. So depending on the settings.
So if I have a sitemap of like 50,000 URLs, which I think is the Google recommended limit, is it 50,000, I think, per sitemap, and you only have 10,000 credits, you would pick a random sample from the sitemap.
Right.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so what I did here, and I'm really curious to see Tomek dig into the data a bit more, is I started with the crawl, and the crawl showed that 91%, the index coverage was 91%, which, Tomek, can you explain how this metric is calculated exactly? Is it like the percentage of indexed URLs from the whole sample, or just the indexable URLs?
So in Google Search Console, it's very difficult to understand the index coverage because there will be many URLs excluded by no index, blocked by robots text, and things like that. Here, we just check which URLs can be indexed, and then we check how many of these URLs are indexed indeed. So we just divide the number of indexed URLs by a number of indexable URLs. That's why we believe it's more accurate.
So let's say, we did a crawl. I think I set it at 10,000 URLs. And so let's say ZipTie finds 10,000 URLs, but only 5,000 are indexable. And of those 5,000, let's say 2,500 are actually indexed. So in that case, even though we found 10,000 URLs, index coverage would be 50%, right? So you have half of the indexable URLs. And what are the criteria that ZipTie uses to determine that a URL is indexable? Like, do you need, I'm assuming 200 OK status code. It has to be canonical.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, HTTP 200, that's the first rule. Second, there shouldn't be a block in robots text, then shouldn't be no indexed. If a page is canonicalized, it's self-canonical.
So you do check robots text as well?
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. All right, so getting back to my reports, as you can see, I really like this feature where within a project you can just put some notes here. And actually, it was very handy because setting up my projects, I was new to the tool, and this is the automatic name that was given by ZipTie, and I would have little to no idea what the actual audit was about. So then I was able to add some data here. I just annotated those audits, knowing that the number 3 audit, so this sitemap check, I checked the product sitemap. So I went to Westwingnow, sitemap XML, and I found their sitemap that contains product specifically, and that's what was analyzed. And for the 4th audit, so this one here, I checked the category pages. And here we see something very interesting, I think. As you can see, the 3rd audit, so the products, the index coverage seems quite decent. I mean, 97%, I would say it's pretty high, Tomek, right? Looking at the experience we have analyzing websites like that, 97% is very decent, right?
Right. I would say, like, for the whole web, any results above 90% is very high. But there are multiple exceptions, and websites indexed, almost fully indexed. So the sky is the limit. If you compare to a poor competition, then every result greater than 90% is good. But if you compete with really tough players, then 99 isn't. So it depends on the context.
Yeah, I guess also it has to depend on the size of the website, right? Like, as your website gets bigger, you should expect to have slightly lower index coverage. Although that being said, we also saw many websites that have millions of URLs and they are into 95+% index. I think IKEA would be one example, which they are doing tremendously with most domains, at least. But I think in general, like, you can expect, it's just that Google has less issues indexing smaller websites, although I'm not saying they don't happen. But as your website gets bigger, you get crawling issues as well with the crawl budget, with your rendering budget. So it just gets more complicated for Google, right?
Right. What I see there, I believe that, so when you check the samples, audit number 3, which shows product pages, this is pretty much indexed, 97% of pages. But when we think of category pages, it's like 70%. So I believe this has a negative impact on ranking, because Google is losing track links between non-canonical pages. I mean, if a page is not indexed, then Google is losing links, tracking links between non-indexable pages. That means links from category pages may be lost, and this can have a negative impact on ranking of product pages in turn. So this is pretty much interesting to know the connection between indexing and ranking itself. Because when we think of indexing, it's not a separate process. It's the foundation for ranking, but also by optimizing our website for better indexing, then we optimize for better ranking. So this is the foundation, then everything is built on indexing. This is how I look on the process.
So what you mean is you have here in the case of this particular website, you have many category pages that aren't indexed, and so because they are not indexed, you can safely assume that Google ignores the internal links that are on those category pages, right?
Yeah, especially with what we see recently, that getting indexed and getting crawled is really difficult these days. So this is the fastest way to lose track of indexing, lose track of link signals from between the pages.
Yeah. What I also have to say, it's really interesting, and this is one place where ZipTie really shines, allowing you to set multiple audits where you can even use the URL list. So maybe you publish a bunch of new URLs and you just want to check if they already were indexed or not. This gives you a more sort of granular control over the data. And with Google Search Console, I mean, you probably can achieve similar granularity, but it takes just much more effort, right? And here I see specifically just by analyzing specific sitemaps that the disparity between indexing of products and category pages, which you wouldn't see just looking at the general stats, right? So we have the 91% from the general crawl. It's okay if 91%. It's not the worst, but it doesn't give you the whole story. So this is really amazing. So how about we look at those category pages, because this is just scratching the surface. ZipTie does have a lot more to offer. So if I go here, I get the details about this specific audit. Of course, the date it was created. You have some settings here. It's really nice that you can just recheck the same sample very easily, which is sort of like, I guess, synonymous to the monitoring feature that you have here, right? Can you say something more about the monitoring feature, Tomek?
Sure. So what we see quite common is that Google de-indexes some URLs. So it may happen that your URLs are indexed now, but then you will notice that some pages will no longer be in Google's index. It was explained by Gary Ilsh that if they don't have that much space, I mean RAM, the disk space, they might decide to do something like that. Then they also have quality thresholds, and then decide, okay, this page is no longer relevant, it's no longer considered as a high quality pages. That's why we offer monitoring. So you can set up active monitoring of your sample. So you can have a report that will tell you if your URLs are still indexed, if there are some spikes, if there are some problems with indexing, and then you can check what's the problem. And if you don't want to use active monitoring, then you can recheck audit for once. So this is like short-term solution, recheck, and then long-term solution, which is monitoring. And I believe with core updates, with helpful updates, it's very interesting to use such a feature.
Yeah, I also guess a common use case would be when you release a new section on your website, especially if it's like, let's say, auto-generated content. So, pages with statistics, maybe for like banking sites or like fintech websites where you might have thousands of pages with, I don't know, stock information. if you release that, it can be thousands, millions of pages, and you just want to monitor if those pages are getting picked up by Google, or if it takes like suspiciously long for Google to index those. I have a question in the chat, which I really love, by the way. If you have any questions, feel free to ask away. I'll try to get to as many as I can. So let me put it up. Crawl Me a River, which is an excellent nick, asks, so if a page isn't indexed, it isn't included in the internal link graph analysis for PageRank, etc.
Yeah, so once John Miller said that links are tracked between indexed pages. So if a page is not indexed, then it's being lost from the internal link graph. I can try to find this statement by John, and we don't have any possibility to check if it's valid, but we believe it's true. And also with limiting of crawl budget that we see a lot recently, that Google is crawling less in general, and then it also affects pages that are not indexed.
So when you say about Google crawling less, are you basing that off the data of our clients, or?
Yeah, so we've got sample of our clients, and then we check. We get data from Google Search Console, how many pages are being visited by Google, of course, and then we notice that across the last year, crawl budget for these websites, now it's like 50% of the crawl budget that was 1 year ago. So that's a huge difference. In terms of median, I mean, we see that huge popular websites that are treated as valuable by Google gets more crawl budget, but the other, I mean, the median is going down. So this is what we see, and shortly we will publish this kind of data.
Mm-hmm. This is fascinating, and I also want to ask here: have you looked at the difference in the crawl purpose statistics, which I think you have that in the crawl stats report in Google Search Console, right? You can.
Yeah. So there are no changes like this. I mean, it's almost stable, like 91% is for recheck and 9% for discovery.
So on average, 91% of Googlebot's activity is for refresh, I think it's called.
Yeah.
In the report. Okay, that's fascinating. I think we spoke about that in one of the webinars with Fabrice Canel as well. We might have touched on the necessity for search engines to keep recrawling content they already know over and over, just to keep the index fresh. And as the internet is growing so fast, this is one of the major challenges. And so this is why, I remember now, this was in connection with the Index Now API, where they were essentially, one of their projects is to try to optimize how they crawl and to just limit the amount of the refresh crawling that they do. But let's not steer off the topic too much. Getting back to Westwingnow, I went to my sitemap check of their category pages, and you can see the URL list here. So basically here you have what you might call just at least a part of the raw data that ZipTie gives you. You can, of course, filter that any way you want. And here we see
export data to CSV, and you get more information.
Right, you can export the data, which you have more columns there, right? You don't have just that. Yeah, that's amazing. So you can see here, I do have some non-indexable pages that were in their sitemap. By the way, Tomek, what do you think? Like, as of 2022, is it a big deal if you have non-indexable pages in your sitemap? Like, the sitemap should be the source for Google. Like, here is my canonical content, please index that. So is that a big deal from the SEO standpoint?
I mean, when we optimize huge structures, and we optimize for Googlebot, we really need to ensure that Google's budget is not being lost on low quality pages. Still, with smaller websites, I wouldn't go that crazy because it's still a possibility for Google to discover links to other pages. So yes, you lose your crawl budget a little bit, but then Google also can discover new links and then follow them.
Yeah.
I mean, discover and crawl.
As long as your internal linking is fine, right? So if you have
Right.
issues, like for example here, where you might have category pages containing valuable links, but they are not even indexed, so those links will get lost. So their sitemaps might be very helpful for Google to get to all that content.
It's always a trade-off. So you need to know what's the main problem of your website. If it's a crawl budget, if it's internal linking, or just not putting all URLs in the sitemap. So it depends on this. I would say I really wanted to say it depends.
It
for
depends.
the first time.
Yeah, I mean, it's an SEO webinar after all, so it depends. It had to be here. I just wanted to show you these are actual pages. Yeah, this is one of the unindexed pages that you could find in the report. You could probably look it up with the site command and it will show up. But yeah, like Tomek, where do I go from here? So if someone from Westwing is watching, I don't know if they are. It's not like we picked that website to make fun of them. I mean, their stats are decent. Like comparing to the industry, the e-commerce industry, it's not that bad. So, and I hope they don't take it the wrong way at all. But let's say they are watching. Like, what do you do from here to further analyze the potential issues with those pages?
So there are couple of ways how to approach that. First, you can open URLs that are indexed and URLs that aren't indexed on the sample and then check what's the difference between them. It's very powerful because you are looking through real person eyes, and then you can see, okay, this is the problem. You can easily spot the mistake, but also you can see project insights when you will get more information.
So do you mean here is
yes.
where you yeah, so I just took a quick look here, and yeah, you need to explain everything that's here, because this is, I didn't even know you were working on this feature, and looks amazing.
Surprise.
So what it was a huge surprise. What are we seeing here, Tomek?
Yeah, so can you go to the top?
Sure.
So then we can split off category pages, and then we see which category pages are indexed and which aren't, which is pretty much powerful when we want to see this kind of insights. And then we notice that a lot of factors come into play when it comes to indexing. Is the quality, whatever you call it, is the website performance.
So these are the things that you have below, right? Those analysis.
Okay. Is the content relevancy, and we use BERT models for that. Here we don't see that BERT is making huge difference between non-indexed pages and indexed, because you see that scores very, very close to each other.
Yes.
So semantic SEO isn't a problem on this website, but we can check what's the problem
so
below.
Just give me a minute here. So you're using BERT to check the relevancy between the content and the title, then content versus H1 headers?
Yes, because as SEOs, we need to have tools that will try to digest how Google can look at your pages. Because everybody says quality, but what quality means? We got these answers from 2012, I guess, like 50 questions, how good your website is, how good your content is, and we are sure that in that time Google wasn't that powerful to check that. And we were thinking, how can we approach that? And the answer was partially by semantic SEO, by using BERT. So we noticed that if main content isn't relevant to title, then a page is very likely to be not indexed.
Wow,
so
really?
that's why we check that, and if that's the problem for this website, then you will see. This is a practical use of semantic analysis for this purpose. We are thinking also using other models, but for now we are very happy with using BERT for that, because we believe it's very, very powerful for this kind of purpose, for ranking and for indexing too.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, you're using BERT to measure the relevancy between various pieces of the page's content, and you said you noticed that if the main content is misaligned with the title, that would make the page vulnerable to indexing issues?
Yeah, because the way I think of that is that Google is trying to get the threshold to index a page or not to index. And then it gets signals from different parts, from headers, from headings, from text, and from title. And then if you give wrong signals for Google, like title is about totally different thing than the main content, then how likely that page is to be indexed? That was my logic behind to implement it or not. And then we thought, okay, that makes sense. And then we noticed there is high correlation between a page being indexed and relevancy of content title, content headings. So yeah, that's why we believe it's powerful.
Yeah, I remember also in one of our webinars, like probably 2 years ago, we spoke to Martin Split, right? And I think he said something about those were questions about rendering, and he said that Google may skip rendering parts of a page if it notices that they are completely unrelated, right? Like he mentioned a page being about cats, and then you have a section with internal links, like related articles, which are about dogs, I think was his example. And so this follows sort of the same logic, right?
Yeah, kind of similar, because Google can detect the theme of the content by what we can call NLP API. Then you get the main content, and then you get content topics. But also, yeah, it follows similar way. I mean, Martin Split was speaking about indexing a specific parts, but then we try to not focus on specific parts of a page, but just rather to give classification if a page is going to be indexed or not. So we just try to approach a bigger picture here.
That's amazing. I mean, I'd be curious, maybe for a future office hours, we can find a website where this is an issue, because here, as we can see,
there is no issue
there is
for
no
this
issue
website.
here. So good job for Westwingnow on adjusting their content. However, I think in this section, I saw some discrepancies here. So this is text length and words and paragraphs. So basically, there would be like a content parity issue, I guess. So what does it mean here?
So yeah, basically, we can see that pages that are indexed are basically longer. I don't call that number of words or paragraph is a ranking or indexing factor, but it seems that, like, probably from this place, this gives us insight that the pages that aren't indexed are more or less thin content.
Right.
I mean, Google doesn't, they don't satisfy the threshold for the page being indexed.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to look through a larger sample of those pages. I just showed you one, which had, I guess, like 6 or 7 products. I don't even remember. But we have to remember this is on average, right? So these are averages taken from the whole sample, and just on average, I'm assuming if we're talking about category pages, they would just list less products in most cases. Although some of them may have some like category descriptions, and maybe the more extensive the category description is, the easier it would be for Google to understand that this is unique, valuable content that needs to be indexed.
Yeah, and how I look at indexing problems is that when you see in this case that there is a like pages that are indexed get more paragraphs in this case and words, and then Ziemek connected the dots and said that it may be about number of products on this page. Then my idea is to check in Google Search Console a sample of category pages. What's the main problem with them? If it's crawled currently not indexed or discovered currently not indexed. If it's a crawled currently not indexed, that's certainly a quality issue. But if it's discovered currently not indexed, that's totally different story. I mean, if the main problem here with this category pages is discovered currently not indexed, then I would go check internal linking if these pages are really getting internal links to make sure that Google is visiting the page. Then also I would check if sitemaps contain these URLs, because based on many sitemaps I checked, there is a lot of mess here, and this is like fixing indexing problems isn't like a simple check and you do simple thing and then you fix index coverage issues.
Yeah.
Here you need to be like a detective to really try to digest what's the problem. And sometimes you don't. Sometimes you need to fix the entire engine to fix a car, and by fixing indexing issues, you also can fix ranking issues as well. So that's why we believe that indexing is that powerful tool to help with getting more clients. I mean, if your pages aren't indexed, then you're not getting any clients from Google. But also for ranking well, some of them are same features that makes indexing happen and then ranking happen.
Right. So just to reiterate, you said that with those category pages, and I might be able to show some of them live as well, just to show you all that. I mean, these are actual pages. These are valuable products that are listed there. So you said you would go to Google Search Console and see like if a page was crawled but not indexed, which is one of the issues that are reported in the index coverage report. That would mean that it's a quality issue. So Google visited the page and decided, okay, I mean, this is not enough, right? Like this isn't enough to get indexed. I don't know, maybe there are too few products here. Maybe I don't like this banner. Maybe there's too little copy to understand. Whereas where you see discovered currently not indexed, then you would try to boost, like provide more signals for Google that this page is valuable, right? So
provide more signal and works on improving your crawl budget in overall, because that's another missing part here, crawl budget.
Okay, so first of all, yeah, the crawl budget. So maybe Google just didn't have enough resources to even crawl those. And if that's not the case,
I would say that I did a research on a sample of our clients, but also I were getting some data from other SEOs, and it turned out that the most common problems are crawled currently not indexed, which we may classify as quality, whatever we call it. and discovered currently not indexed, which we may diagnose as crawl budget. Of course, there are some exceptions to that, because Google might be thinking about, okay, it's not worth visiting, but it's still a crawl budget. Google will just decide, because the problem can be, okay, Google can say, okay, I don't want to spend that money on that website. This is part of the reason, and sometimes Google doesn't want to spend money on that page or series of pages. So it's related. So those are the most popular problems here, and they are not going away anyway soon.
Yeah. Okay. So just to summarize with the category section, as you could see, we had the 70% index coverage, meaning 30% of the indexable category pages on Westwingnow that we analyzed, because there might be more than 10,000, were not indexed. And looking at the ZipTie generated report, we were able to see that the non-indexed pages have less content, and Tomek's recommendation would be to check the Search Console and look at the specific issues that those specific pages are suffering from, whether it's the crawl budget problem on Westwingnow, or it's a quality issue where you do have that disparity of content, because we did see lower word count, less paragraphs, etc. We do have a question from Michal Rybke. I hope I pronounced it well. Michal asks, how many pages should a website contain at least, for example, 100,000, so that from your point of view, ZipTie will be used purposefully and in a cost-benefit relation?
So from our point of view, it doesn't matter from our point of view. I mean, we offer small packages. We will offer small packages for small websites. With a rising number of URLs, you will be able to check more. So we will offer our tool for both small websites and bigger ones, 100,000, millions. That shouldn't be that problem, but no problem with smaller websites. So there is no criteria like this.
So I'm assuming it will also be possible to purchase a smaller package of credits, where maybe you have 5,000 URLs and you just pay for what you check. So in that way, it's still cost efficient, right?
Right, and also we're not limiting you to one website. So if you are a SEO who works on multiple pages, then you can use that credits that you bought for multiple websites.
Yeah, so I mean, this is really amazing. I think, I mean, with Google Search Console, I really like Google Search Console. It's Google's data, so it's super valuable. But one thing you cannot do is check the index coverage of a website you don't have access to, right? So, which in most cases, I'm assuming would be your competition. Which is super valuable. Like just looking at, okay, my competitor, like super direct competitor, is their website indexed better than ours? And if that's the case, why is that the case, right? This is something.
Yeah, this is also a pretty good idea. Like when you're not sure if that number is fine or not, then you check your competitors and you see, okay, they've got 99% of pages indexed, and this is something that you need to do to get better.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the question, Michal. If any of you in the chat have more questions, we'd love to answer them. I would like to get to the product sitemap as well, just quickly, because I'm hoping to be done by on the hour. So please ask your questions. Just a super quick look at the product sitemap. Here we have nearly 97% of those product URLs indexed. So this would be a good score, I'm assuming, but still, Tomek, like, how do you approach this? I'm assuming we can still look at the URL list to see some of those products. I'll be able to see them. These are like, I mean, regular product pages that weren't indexed by Google.
So I don't have access to Google Search Console, but I have two bets. First, quality issue. I mean, called currently not indexed. Second, duplicate content. I guess in this case it's duplicate content because I can see similar names in the URL, so I believe that's the main problem here. And then what I would do is to check if the duplicate content issue are like very high in severity. If so, I would think of how to. I would think of strategy of having similar products, like similar color. Maybe sometimes it will be enough to just make it clear enough for Google that this product is different. I mean, you can put information about colors here. So if you are selling red dress, you can put red in a content copy, because if you just use a photo, then Google may not understand that it's red and this is the blue. So sometimes the solution is that easy. Sometimes it doesn't work, and then you can think of consolidation of signals, making this as variants with same URLs, depending on the business case, because there is no single solution for handling duplicate products.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it might not be as easy as you say, especially if you're dealing with thousands of products. This is also a considerable amount of work, right, to complement those product pages with some additional description. But yeah, like you said, this would be one way to help Google differentiate if you have similar products, similar variants, just to provide more information, sort of proving that they are in fact unique. I do see a lot of discrepancies here as well. And what's interesting is they, unlike with category pages, they appear in all sorts of categories. So we have the performance stats here, and there are also some issues here. So we don't have to get into that too much, Tomek, but could you maybe say, just from your experience, like how often does it happen that those indexing issues would be caused by, let's say, web performance related factors such as, I don't know, LCP or the DOM content loaded, those sorts of metrics?
So my answer is that rendering counts toward crawl budget. If your website is really slow, that makes Google crawl slower. If Google crawl slower, then it may not index every page, because they need to decide, okay, the website is, I mean, we can go back to Google's patents into crawling, and I think it was described in one of my articles for Write.com. And here I quote a patent from Google, and they mentioned that they try to detect how likely all the crawls will be satisfied. If the website speed is going up, then they can crawl more and lower down the threshold for the page to be crawled. If the server is going down, the threshold for the page for being crawled will go up. I mean, if your server is slow, then it's less likely to get crawled fully. So we believe that, and also it's not only about believing, but also about evidence. It's easy. If your server cannot handle enough requests, then it won't get fully indexed.
So essentially, in your experience, many of the performance-related discrepancies would point to crawl budget issues.
Yes.
It's like just those unindexed pages, maybe they take longer to load, so Google would limit crawling maybe of a specific section to just try to avoid those unpleasant crawls where it falls apart.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And you are coming to a situation when you compete not only with other websites for the crawl budget, but also you are cannibalizing internally. I mean, Google has to decide what to crawl, whether it's externally or internally, and then you will. And also, it's very common for huge websites when crawl budget is a huge problem. Even I believe 2 years ago, Google wrote an article how to manage crawl budget for huge websites, and they also mentioned stuff like rendering, that it's that important, because previously it was taboo, but now it's in particular in technical SEO, it's something that it's considered widely.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot, Tomek, for all those explanations. We do have one more question in chat, which is fantastic because it brings me to sort of the next question that I wanted to ask. Tom is asking about plans for an API. So Tomek, I will ask about your other future plans for the product, but what about the API access to ZipTie?
Yeah, so definitely we want to implement API, but I cannot give you any ITA for now.
Okay, so it's high on the priority list, but I'm assuming you're still occupied with just
yeah. I mean,
doing
we try to be agile and get feedback from our clients and beta testers, and depending on which features they want, we want to implement that. So we get information how many people are. This is that I really like to do. I mean API because it's I believe there is a huge usage for that, but we need to follow the process so we don't lost in the production.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So thanks for that question, Tom. The API is coming. Time is TBD. What about some of your other priorities for now, Tomek? Like, where is this product going in the future?
So we are trying to get people interested in indexing. I mean, to fix the indexing problems, because we believe it's getting more and more common to have indexing and crawling problems. But also we are thinking, okay, we are exploring other branches. Part of that is feature snippet, a tool that will help you get the feature snippet. I don't want to say too much, but we are very close, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, wow, that's certainly not what I would expect. I mean, it's sort of content related. At least this is my first impression when I hear featured snippets and optimizing your content. Well, I said it, optimizing your content for featured snippets. So it doesn't seem that technical, but I'm assuming you have a technical ace up your sleeve when it comes to featured snippets optimization.
Yeah, I mean, now we are exploring two paths. First, indexing, which is our base, but also we don't lose track of things like ranking and feature snippets. So now we are exploring two paths at the same time.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Okay, any other significant updates that we can expect with ZipTie?
So basically we are approaching to the time when it will be available publicly, and here I believe in Ziemek you can announce that people can use our beta version, and we can help them fix indexing issues before there is official launch. So can you announce it, Ziemek?
Well, you just announced it, but I can reiterate. Yeah, you told me a little about it. So, well, I to be honest, I'm a little disappointed because I was, I felt so great to be one of the first people to the party. But yeah, like Tomek said, if you want to give ZipTie a try, is it dashboard.ziptie.dev, Tomek?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, okay, it's not available on the website, but the link is clear to understand.
Right. I just posted it in the chat as well. So If you want to run similar audits like the ones you just saw with Westwingnow or any other website, be it your website, your competitors, or Google Search Central, I don't know, you can go to dashboard.ziptie.dev and you set up an account. It's very easy to run. I had zero idea about this tool. Didn't have to ask Tomek for help at all. You just log in and you start using it. So feel free to check it out.
One thing, if you want to have 10K credits for free, just write an email for contact@ZipTie.dev, and I will reply with the coupon code.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I think that would cover it. Thanks so much to everyone who attended. It's our first time, but definitely not the last. We want to keep all of you updated with the product, but more importantly, for me at least, we want to keep geeking out about those websites that we keep auditing just for R&D purposes. So there will be more webinars coming. If you have any questions about ZipTie that you would like answered, you can probably email Tomek. Right, Tomek? Can you post your email address in the chat? So if any of you has any questions about the product, feel free to ask. I think the next office hours will be lined up for sometimes in September. We'll look at some other websites. I'll be sure to find examples where those issues that we show will be different than today. So hopefully, maybe we run into some performance-related indexing issues, I hope, as web performance is always so exciting for me. And with that being said, thanks again, everyone. If you have any questions, either to Tomek or things that you would like us to answer in the upcoming events, just contact us, be it social media or give Tomek an email. And enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thanks, Tomek, for joining me and providing all that super geeky, unique indexing knowledge.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone, and see you soon.